Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning to our first U46 Engage webinar, Chromebook 101. So we'll be talking about Chromebooks, and we'll also be talking a little bit about tablets. So if your computer or tablet is available, bring it along so you can follow us today, or just go ahead and just listen in, and you can always give it a try out later. What we'll be doing throughout the presentation is sharing links, and also this presentation is being recorded and it will be available on our website later on. We will send you a link to everyone who registered with a copy of that recording, and also a link to the PDF copy of this presentation, so you can also have the links on that PDF. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our presenters today. We have Justin Follis this morning, and also Matthew Wartz. Both of them are level 2 techs in our information services department, and so we greatly appreciate your time this morning to talk to us about our Chromebooks and our tablets that our students are using. Thank you so much, and I'll turn it over to Justin.
Thank you, Carla, and good morning, everyone. We are going to go over a few topics today. Mostly we're going to go over the various devices that students use in the district and the differences between them. But then at the end, we will go a little into student password management. So there are 3 different devices that students use in the district. Here we have a general overview of them, including who uses them, what operating system they use, what can be installed, etc. The main difference between them is going to be operating systems, though. So what is an operating system? Well, an operating system is just the essential software the computer needs to run. Without the operating system, the computer, it's not very usable. It can't really do much. The operating system is what makes a Chromebook different than a Windows laptop, or an iPhone different from an Android phone. Each operating system has its own features, its own functions, but at U46 we make sure the applications that are needed for education of these students are available on each device, regardless of what operating system that they run. So what is the difference between a laptop, a Chromebook, and an iPad? How do you know which one your student has? Well, a laptop is probably the device most of us are familiar with. A laptop describes the shape and the form factor of the computer more than anything. But for the sake of this discussion, we are going to be referring to Windows laptops. These laptops are running the Windows operating system, but during remote learning, students are not really using Windows laptops. Now, a Chromebook is what 1st through 12th grade students are going to be using for remote learning. It looks just like a laptop, but there are a few key differences. The easiest way to tell is that Chromebooks typically have a Chrome logo on the outside. A Chromebook is a type of laptop, but it specifically runs Chrome OS. Just like how a Mac laptop is called a MacBook, a Chrome OS laptop is called a Chromebook. And we will get into more detail about Chrome OS in a bit. An iPad is a type of tablet that is made by Apple, of course. Many of you are familiar with it, I'm sure. An iPad runs iPad OS, and it is what pre-K and kindergarten students will be using for distance learning in U46. The applications that can be downloaded to these devices will be dependent on what operating systems, which operating system they're running and what the operating system allows. Okay, so an overview of Windows laptops. We're not going to spend a lot of time on them because, as I said, students aren't going to be using them during distance learning. But they can install U46 approved applications, and they run the Windows operating system. We're going to talk about them a little, though, because they are a good basis of comparison to talk about the differences between them and a Chromebook or an iPad. Okay, here you can see a picture of the Windows desktop. We're going to use this as a point of comparison so that you can see what each of the devices' operating systems looks like. All right, so your student's receiving a Chromebook, but there is a good chance you're more familiar with a Windows laptop. How are you supposed to know the ins and outs of the device that your student is using when you're used to using a different device? Well, Chromebooks run the Chrome OS, which is the same as the Chrome web browser that we use every day. It's available on phones and Windows and Macs and everything out there. So if you're wondering what your student can and can't do on their Chromebook, if it can be done with the Chrome browser, it can be done on a Chromebook. So Chromebooks are by far the most common device at U46, being used by 1st through 12th grade now as part of distance learning and during the course of a regular school year. Chromebooks have risen in popularity for educational use because they are rugged, affordable, and they're very straightforward to use. Chrome OS, it's based around Google's Chrome browser, as I said before, and it pairs especially well with Google's G Suite, which is used throughout the district. In fact, this very presentation was created using G Suite. So in terms of what it can install a limited set of applications via the Chrome browser. This is limited by what we have approved for educational use. And that's about it for the overview. So I keep talking about browsers. Well, what's a browser? A browser is just the application that allows you to browse the internet. Chrome is the most popular one, but other browsers include Safari, Firefox, and Microsoft Edge. I mentioned before that you could tell which device was a Chromebook by looking for the Chrome logo on the outside. Here we have a picture of 4 different Chromebooks. As you can see, plain as day, the Chrome logo is just there on the outer corner. A Windows laptop will not have this logo on it, and this is definitely the quickest and easiest way to tell a Chromebook and a Windows laptop apart. You don't even have to turn it on to tell the difference. Here's what the Chrome OS desktop looks like. It is similar to the Windows desktop screen, but you'll notice that there are no apps or icons on the background. This is because Chrome OS does the majority of its work in the Chrome browser. In the bottom center, you have pinned sites and apps. Clicking on one of these will typically take you to a website via the Chrome browser. For example, if you clicked on the Gmail icon, it would open gmail.com so you could check your inbox rather than opening a dedicated Gmail application. So where are the rest of the applications? Chrome OS stores them in an app drawer. To access the app drawer, you click on the button in the bottom left corner. And this is where any other application that you cannot find on the bottom bar is located. So Chromebooks are very similar to Windows laptops in that you can connect to Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, you can change settings, log in as different users, and so much more. The menu to do so, of course, will look different than what you're familiar with on a Windows laptop. So we've included some of the most common settings to be changed and some instructional videos here. In fact, let's just go ahead and take a look at the Getting Started with Your Chromebook tutorial.
Hi, let's go over setting up and navigating your Chromebook. First, let's start with the outside. To turn your Chromebook on, you'll just press the power button that's located on the right side. Here you'll also find the volume up and down buttons, as well as the headphone and microphone jack. Over on the left side, you'll find the AC power port, which you'll use to charge your Chromebook. The Chromebook's battery has enough capacity to last you through the day, but you'll want to make sure you plug it in each night, so it's ready to use the next day. On the left side, you'll also find the HDMI port, which you can use to connect your Chromebook to a monitor or television. You'll just need a standard HDMI cable. Lastly, there's a set of USB ports, which you can use to connect accessories such as a keyboard, mouse, or flash drive. Signing into your Chromebook is fast and simple. When greeted with the sign-in screen, just enter your student email address. Once signed in, you're ready to go. Now let's go over the basics of navigating your Chromebook. On the bottom of your desktop, you'll see what's called the shelf. This is where you can access apps that are pinned or currently running. On the bottom right is the status tray, which contains quick access to your settings. Here you'll find the network, battery life, settings, and more. There's also a question mark icon, which is the Get Help app. Here you can search for help articles within Chrome. On the bottom left, you'll see the circle icon. This is the app's launcher. To view all your apps, just click on the up arrow. To create a folder of your apps, just drag one app onto another like so. And for easy access, you can pin them to your shelf by two-finger clicking and selecting Pin to Shelf. Now let's go through some touchpad and keyboard tips. Use two fingers and move them up or down to scroll. To right-click, do a two-finger click. You can use your Chromebook in a few different ways. You can use it in a standard laptop position. You can fold the screen back to use it as a tablet, or tent mode, which is a very stable position for touch. When in tablet mode or tent mode, it's easy to use the on-screen keyboard. Just tap on the area to type, and the on-screen keyboard will pop up. Here you can use the voice-to-text feature by clicking on the microphone icon to start recording. You'll just need to click Got It. You can also write on the screen with your finger or a stylus by clicking on the three dots and choosing the pencil icon. Finally, let's go through the Dell Activity Light app. There's a color indicator on the front of your Chromebook, which you can use to communicate with your teacher. Here you've got the option to raise your hand, ask a question, or start a conversation. The light will change to the appropriate color depending on which action you choose. That's it, you're all set to start using your Chromebook. For more information on how to get started, visit the Get Help app in the status tray.
Okay, so we have that video, and we also have a number of other resources available to you, including tips on how to connect to your Wi-Fi, information on how to update your Chromebook's OS, which is important because a common problem that parents have run into is they'll get a message that says, your browser is not up to date for something like Canvas or some other application, and all you have to do is go to the location talked about in this PDF, click update, and it will do it. It's super easy. You can add a second student to your Chromebook fairly easily. We've got some nice keyboard shortcuts here. Let's quickly go over how to access Canvas from Gmail. Canvas is the learning management system that your students are using during distance learning. So from Gmail, if they click on the 9-dot button in the top right, we like to call it the waffle, it will open up a menu of available applications. Once they open this up, if they scroll way, way, way down, they will see a button that says Canvas, and all they have to do is click on it, and it will open Canvas right up and log them in. Easy peasy. Okay, so that covered most of the software issues. Now, for any hardware issues, we recommend that you just schedule a Chromebook swap by using the appointment form listed on the screen that is also now in chat. Hardware issues are typically physical problems with the device. They include things, but are not limited to the Chromebook not powering on, the keyboard being broken or missing a couple keys, broken ports or buttons on the thing like the power button or the volume switch. Say the touchpad isn't working, you're having sound issues like the mic or the speaker are not playing right. What it does not include is general tech support or questions or password resets and login issues. We will get to the password management later, but for hardware issues, please just go ahead and schedule an appointment using the form. Okay, so that's Chromebooks. Let's go ahead and talk about iPads for a bit. iPads are what are going to be being used by pre-K and kindergarten students during distance learning. And iPads do most of their work through the applications that are installed on them. But unlike if this was your personal iPad you do not install the applications via the Apple App Store. Instead, you will use our catalog app. For the best experience, you're going to want to make sure your student has the following applications already installed via the catalog app. You'll want them to have Gmail, Zoom, Clever, and of course, Canvas. Note, please make sure that when you sign into the Gmail application, you use your student's district-issued Google account, not a personal Google account. This is your student's gateway to their instruction, and logging in with a personal account will cause them to miss essential communications to their district-issued account and could cause other problems as well. Okay, so this is what the main screen of an iPad looks like. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this. And this is what the icon for the catalog app looks like for the U46 app catalog. The catalog contains only approved applications for your student. And when the iPad is enrolled, it's registered as a device for a pre-K or kindergarten student. And only U46 approved applications, which are for pre-K and kindergarten, will be accessible through that catalog. So there's the catalog icon again on the screen. And if you click on that, it will go ahead and open up the catalog app. And this is what it will look like. You've got a nice search button in the top right corner that you can click on to find the app you need. And when you find it, you can just go ahead and click on the install button. And after a momentary delay, the app will install straight to your iPad. Okay. iPad tips. So let's go ahead and start with the very most important part of getting your new iPad. We are going to go ahead and talk about remote management. Remote management is how we make sure that your iPad is locked down to only the U46 approved apps, specifically those for the pre-K and kindergarten students. And we will go through how to do that your very first time when picking up the iPad right now. Okay, so when you pick up the iPad, it will be in its default setting, and you will just need to click on the home button, the only physical button on the device, right down at the bottom. Next, you will need to choose a language. We need you to choose English to make things consistent and communication with the teacher much easier. Next, choose United States as your country. Then go ahead and click on the button at the very bottom of the quick start screen that says set up manually. Now you will need to choose your Wi-Fi network from the selection available on the screen. Enter your Wi-Fi password and go ahead and hit the join button in the top right corner. Give it a second to finish connecting, and once it is connected, you will be able to hit the next button in the top right corner. From here, you will want to hit the continue button on the bottom of the screen, the big blue button. You may have to do this for a couple different screens. Here, we finally reach the most important step, remote management. You would go ahead and hit next on this screen. And finally, we are at the vital step where you enroll the iPad. These are the U46 enrollment credentials. Please use these to enroll the iPad. You're going to use username U46iPad and password KindTiger96. Please use these credentials. You will only have to enter them once the very first time you set up the iPad. Don't try putting your students' credentials in there. It will not work. Just use U46iPad, KindTiger, and then go ahead and hit next. Okay, here we want to hit that blue continue button again. And keep hitting blue continue buttons until you get a blue button that says get started. And then you'll go ahead and click that. And that should be our final step. And that will, after a moment of setup, take you to the iPad main screen, and it will begin to install the basic apps such as the catalog. And that's it. Seems like a lot of steps, but it's really simple. Okay, we have additional resources, how to join a Zoom meeting from an iPad, really easy, how to sign into Gmail with your students' credentials. Super important, again, make sure you only use your students' credentials to sign into the Gmail app. That way they get all of the correct communication and everything else works properly. And finally, we have instructions on how to sign in to the Canvas Learning Management System through Clever. It's a little different on the iPad. You're going to need to go ahead and click on the Clever icon, the Clever app that you installed earlier, which is that blue box with the C in it there. It will open up Clever. And here's where things might split off a little bit. So what you want to do is you want to show the camera your student's Clever badge, which is just the little piece of paper with the QR code and probably their name on it. A little green check mark will show up and the login will be successful, and it'll take you straight into a Canvas and everything will be good. But what if it isn't? So if login with the badge isn't successful or you did not receive a badge, which is distinctly possible, you'll just go to the bottom of the screen. You'll click on login with username or password. And then the Clever site will open. Here you will need to select your school. So just go ahead and start searching for it and click on it when it appears. And once you do that, you will click on Login with Google. And the Google authentication, the Google authentication page will open and you will select your student's account. It is super important, again, that you have logged into Gmail with your student's account prior to doing any of this. And there we are. We are finally into a Clever now. And once you're in Clever, you click on Canvas. In here, you will take a quick look at the acceptable use policy, check the agreement box, and hit submit. And you'll be in Canvas. And that's that. It's either really simple or just slightly less simple, but still pretty easy. That's how you get into Canvas on an iPad. Okay, and that's all the tips we've got there for the iPads. Let's now go over student password management. Elementary and secondary student password management is a little different, so let's quickly talk about each of them. Elementary students, so pre-K through 6th, their password never expires. They also cannot reset their own password. Teachers, parents, guardians, they can all view their student's password, but they also cannot reset it, but they can look it up. And we will talk about how to do that momentarily. Secondary students, which is of course 7th through 12th, their password expires after 120 days, and students can reset their own password. Okay, so back to the primary stuff. How do you look up your student's password if they are in 6th grade or below? Well, first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go to Infinite Campus on the main U46 page. And then you're going to need to enter your parent credentials. Here we go. Here's what the page looks like. Just go ahead and enter your parent username and password here and hit login. From here, you will have, you'll see the main page, and on the left toolbar, you will want to click on More. In the selections that pop up, to get your child's email address, click on Family Information. To get the password, click on U46 LM Password. From the Family Information page, you can just look for your student's name and then look for your email. You can see Brian's sample right there, and his email is right below it. Super easy to find. And on the U46 LM password screen, you can see your student's password right there. And that is how you find elementary student passwords and names. Okay, secondary students, so high school, middle school, they can, if they're on our district Wi-Fi, if they're in the buildings, they can reset their own passwords. We've got instructions for how to do that there. But since that we are in distance learning right now, they're going to need to use the off-district approach. And to do so, you'll need the email password reset only at u-46.org. And in that email, you need to include the parent's date of birth, the student's date of birth, the home address, and a secondary email address that they can send the temporary password to, as well as the student ID number. And that is the sum of all the password management. With that, I'm going to turn this back over to Carla and we will take questions. Please note that when you're asking questions, do not include any information which could identify your student in your question. This includes things like their name, their email address, their school, their teacher name, etc. Just keep them pretty generic. And I'm going to hand it back to Carla now. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin, and thank you, Matthew, for this great presentation. I hope everyone found some useful information here that they could go back and use. Please, after this presentation and once we have everything posted on the website, we will send an email to everyone who registered and everyone who attended with the links to this and also a link to a survey. If you have additional questions that we may not answer today or need some kind of follow-up, the survey will allow you to include contact information, so we may contact you later on. As I mentioned, this is our first webinar, U46 Engaged webinar, and so we do have 3 additional ones coming up next week, Wednesday evening, Thursday morning, and then following for the next 3 weeks. These are all listed under our webinar website, which is u-46.org/webinars. You'll be able to find a list of the webinars along with the link to register. Upcoming topics include next week, we will be having our Canvas experts coming in and talking a little bit more about Canvas, what it is, how to log in, how to connect with your student account, and all its features that it offers. After that, we will have someone coming to talk about distance learning. How can we best support our children during this time? And then very important, how do we take care of ourselves? So how do we promote self-care? So make sure that you visit this page to register and get the links to those webinars. We also have this digital classroom. Here is where we're housing a lot of the information to support your son's distance learning experience. So make sure you visit that website, play around. A lot of the resources shared today are available in our digital classroom webpage. So make sure you visit that, u-46.org/learning. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to email the help desk at u-46.org or give them a call at this number, the district main number 847-888-5000, and dial extension 4295. And then someone will connect with you for any questions that we may not answer today. So there's a few ways that we can follow up with you. So now we move on to our questions being asked today. As Justin mentioned, please don't include any identifying information of your family or student. Just ask your question and we will try to answer as best as we can today. So our first question is from Mireya. Is there a way for us to temporarily block YouTube? I know this can be a temptation to many students when parents are not able to monitor them. I know this is controlled by district, but I'm thinking this might be helpful if possible.
I don't believe we have a method of blocking it on a student by student basis at this point, and we can't just block it for everyone because a lot of teachers do use a lot of YouTube videos as educational devices.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way to do it per student.
Great. Am I able to send assignments my children receive to be printed in my home printer? I'm using the Bluetooth technology. So can they be installed, whether it's a Chromebook or an iPad, can printers be installed?
So there's no way of installing the printers on the Chromebook or the iPad. I think the best way to print something that your student did is to have them log into their student account on your computer that is already connected to the home printer. That's what we've been having teachers do, because we're also not able to install their home printers. So,
do Chromebooks store files locally on the hard drive? If so, how do we find those files?
They can store them locally, but most of the time they're stored to the Google Drive. To get to the files, there's a application called the Files, right, Justin?
yes, it's called something very like that. It's very obvious once you go into the app drawer. It should be fairly easy to find.
Yeah, if you pull up the app drawer, there should be something. It's a blue folder icon. If that says something along the lines of files. If you click that, you could see all of the files on your student's Google Drive, as well as what's stored locally on the Chromebook.
Another question just came in: is remote desktop available to troubleshoot issues on the Chromebook?
Unfortunately, not at this time.
Thank you. So it seems like that concludes our Q&A for this morning. Once again, thank you everyone who was able to join us, and we look forward to you joining us again in a future webinar. Have a great day and happy new school year to everyone. Thank you. Have a good morning and have a good rest of the day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.